Here we go. Welcome to ControlTalk. Now, your smart building video casting podcast for the week ending September 16th, 2018. This is episode 283, where we talk about all things smart controls. Even if you got a jet-lagged Eric Stromquist here, who can hardly keep his eyes open because I just got back from Italy, and I'm still in an Italian time, so I should be out drinking and dancing right now because it's late. Been waking up at 4 every morning with my kids because it's 10 o'clock Italian time there, but it's okay because you know why? You got the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, Kenny Smyers, the refreshed controls man from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is he's gonna keep it on the road today, folks. So don't worry about that. Kenny, welcome to the show, big dog.
Well, thank you. Keep it on the road. I'm ready to sneeze here. Excuse me.
Gesundheit to Kenny Smyers.
Gesundheit, yeah. We actually, the world's so small. I actually have a friend that was the best man at my wedding, and I was the best man in his wedding. He's staying with us right now, and he's in the other room. Come on. Take 6 minutes. Anyhow, he's from Italy. He's a GS 12 or 13. He's over. He runs a commissary in Venice, Italy.
Venezia. Venice?
No, but it's 45 minutes from Venice.
Okay. Right.
By train. But Venezia, I can't pronounce it. I used to be good at that stuff because I'd see it a lot, and then you get used to the fluidity and get to break down those syllables and say them. But
no, you just got to talk with your hands. You go, welcome to the Control Awards. We don't say Venice, we say Venezia. We don't say Florence, we say Florence. We don't say Rome, we say Roma.
Right. So throw an A at the end of it and you'll be in good shape. But anyhow, so ironic. So you just got back. He's leaving tomorrow. So it's kind of an interesting exchange. But I think it's a sign of the times of the world, the globalization of everything, from products. We got some great posts. We don't have many posts, but we have some good posts because they lead into some really interesting, the trends that are affecting our industry and where we can, plot the course, where the roadmaps are going to.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Kenny. If you think about it, I mean, we've been touting EasyIO and the global, their global conference every year because you and I have had the good fortune to go to those and everywhere from Madrid to Paris to Manchester, England. And, one of the things we always come away with, amazed at how really and truly the smart building controls community, how small it really is. Your minor differences, but if you really want to up your perspective and game, I mean, you get to talk to some integrators from South Africa or India or Europe, and so it's a great thing. And I tell you, dude, it was interesting. Like I say, it was, there's a thing called, I know Chuck Chittick, one of our guys, he does triathlons, and a thing called a tough mudder, which I guess they electrocute you and throw you in the water and all that kind of stuff.
What's rough? I've been to one of them.
Yeah, you've been to one, right? So I've had my tough mudder, man. The 3 weeks. With the 2 small kids and more luggage than you can handle in a foreign country. Dude, I tell you what, man, I survived. I'm a better man for it. And it was two, we had a 5 and a 3-year-old with us, and they were great for 5 and 3 years old, but they're still 5 and 3. So the advice I have for the control trends community is that Italy is absolutely spectacular. Go when it's cold and nobody else is there. Go late fall or early spring, but do not go in the summertime. Because I tell you what, we had this stroller that I had to carry on the thing with the car seats, 2-seater, and we were going around in Florence. The sidewalks are very, very small. So one wheel's off, the other wheel's on, and you got 1,000 people coming at you every second. It's the busiest New York City. It's like New York City, at 5 o'clock, but now you got a sidewalk that's this big. So, and the people were great. The food was fantastic. I'm happy to report that I ate pizza and gelato every single day, and I lost 8 pounds. So go figure. But my wife tells me it's because they use different ingredients over there. So the food was magnificent. The people were great. But a couple of things I did notice, Kenny, that are a bit different, man. They're a lot more economical. Everything is smaller over there. The rooms are smaller. They utilize space more efficiently than we do. And, you know, they're very concerned about energy. We definitely had, you know, the key that would go in the door to turn everything on and off. So if you left your room, you were absolutely not, you know, running your air conditioner or charging your batteries while you were gone. So,
well, you just inspired me. Instead of turning on my air conditioning through my thermostat, bring it up or bring it down a notch, I turned on the ceiling fan. So that I saved electricity, or did I? Which was more expensive, the air conditioning or the ceiling fan?
Well, let me just put you this way, Kenny. Since I've gotten back, I've turned every light in my house on, and the air conditioner's been running 24/7.
Well, listen, I'm so glad that you're back. I tell you what, and it impacted on our control trends. You know, the workload, just the width of, you know, the bandwidth. We on the other half of control trends, we were well represented at a couple meetings. We traveled out to the Controls Group North America meeting. It was the fall meeting, which brings vendors in, and so it was 2.5 days of, reminded me of some of those old you know, meetings we used to go to where you start at 7 in the morning and you end at 9 o'clock at night. You do that 2.5 times and you're ready to go back home too. So I drove,
and then the vendor gives you the bad news the last day at 5:30. Is if you want to talk about it, all you want to do is leave and get to the bar. It's a well-known strategy throughout the controls world. Just wear them out. Keep them in meetings, give them the bad news at the last minute, and nobody's going to argue with you because they just want to go home. Right?
They didn't play that tactic. In fact, what happened was the involvement was kind of structured as almost like a real calm IBCon meeting. In other words, they opened things up. There were panel discussions. There were breakouts that lasted exactly 45 minutes, and it was marched around because the primary reason why you had to leave exactly at the time is because they had to reset the rooms. So the staff would come in, and while you're talking, these guys would be, you know, trying to finish up or extend their play. They didn't have an opportunity because people were reconfiguring the chairs and moving tables around. So it was a pretty well organized thing. But what it was, again, you know, the benefit of going to meetings and having a lot of the primary players represented by the vendors. So you had the preferred vendors from Controls Group North America, you know, led by Johnson Controls and EasyIO, and you know, all the guys were Functional Devices was there, you know, Connect Air, Sierra Monteleone, and they all had something to say during these different breakouts where we actually had the vendors and the distributors, both viewpoints being presented in a very interesting forum, because it was you know, kind of take the gloves off and tell it like it is. So the distributors went first. They cited the whole incredible, you know, the dynamic disruption going on inside distribution. You know, two-step is being challenged, being tested by fulfillment centers, being tested by e-commerce, and being tested by, you know, direct sales, and that was you know, the rebuttal against that, or the justification was that everybody has to do it to survive. The word survive came up a couple times, and then some of the old-fashioned and old-school two-steppers came up with very strong, you know, reiterations about how they were going to support the two-step chain. They were going to get involved in your business, show you how to be better business people, show you how to better manage your customers, take advantage of new solutions, because they think that there's so much education that needs to go on, that the old play of the distributor to be that local presence, be the voice, the filter for the various customer sets, provide the funding, the training, the support on the product, everything from you know, the integration from legacy systems to this. So it was just an incredible exchange of ideas seen through you know, 60 different sets of eyes. You know, 60.
Right. And then, you know, for our community, you might not know, CGNA stands for Controls Group North America. It's like 42, 43 of the top distributors in the country, or I'll even argue in the world. And we come together twice a year to try to find solutions and try to create value for vendors like Johnson Controls and the vendors that are in that group. So, yeah, it doesn't surprise me, Kenny, because these are not easy problems, you know, easily solved. And, you know, because, you know, on one hand, and you have talked about this a lot, you know, you got the Amazon, we call it the Amazon effect, where you got the online fulfillment centers that have created these great websites, but they provide very little or no technical support, no backup. It's price only, right? And then you got, you know, guys like us that, I don't know about you, but for us to get somebody prepared where they can support a customer and be of value to a customer, I mean, we're talking conservatively $250,000 in you know, 2 or 3 years of very, very stringent training to get them up where they can be a resource, right? And you got to pay health benefits for those folks and everything else. So the cost for two-step distribution, a bricks and mortar full service distributor, is a lot different than somebody's got a website and you know, and is just, you know, sourcing product online. So, and I think what complicates it is in the vendors, but they're under tremendous pressure to grow their businesses too, right? So, they can't necessarily turn a blind eye to the fulfillment centers. So it's kind of a mess. Now, for me, where I break it down, Kenny, is I think that, if you're a vendor, then, if somebody's providing full service and support and going out and selling the product, this is what gets lost over and over and over again, is somebody's got to go out and sell the product. And the distributors, the full service distributors, they have the relationships. They've got the sales force. We talk about the person's got the best message. They're out incurring the cost. My biggest cost is sending salespeople out to people that don't have time to see them to try and drum up new business, right? It's a huge, huge cost. So I think the solution, or at least one of the solutions that I would like for manufacturers to entertain would be, hey, your discount's going to be based on the value that you provide. So if you've got, somebody that's up in the Swiss Alps or something like that, that's just, sending stuff out, has a great website, there's a place for that. But they should not be getting the same discounts that somebody like you or me or other people in CG&A are that are providing all these services are. Because what's going to happen if they don't do that, if you keep everything on equal footing, you're going to drive full service distributors to cut back on their sales force, to cut back on their support. And then, your product's not going to get promoted. We're just going to lowball prices like to compete with the fulfillment centers. So I was wondering, did you hear any of that come up at the meeting?
God, it was all over it. In fact, it took in two sides. So the distributors were represented by, a good mix, a Canadian distributor, Pittsburgh distributor, Texas distributor, New York City distributor. And so even that was remarkable because everybody had a different pain point. Some people were talking about the incredible amount of money of credit they extend to the people to make it work on a 30, 60, 90 construction cycle, and so how do you not get credit for that versus, the vendor would say that, e-commerce is never going to go away. You can't disinvent it. It's not going back in the bottle. So they're going full steam ahead with e-commerce. So anybody that has a deluxe e-commerce site with fulfillment capability, they're becoming very attractive for certain things. Yet that was the check and balance of the conversation was extraordinary because as soon as, just like you said, while you want to increase your efficiencies, eliminate duplicities, the level of support at the user level, the important user level, has increased, and the vendors don't have the talent or the manpower or the money to do it, so they need a channel partner. So it was a conversation. There was a new term we were prepared for. It's called intermediaries. So the whole distribution channel is made up by intermediaries serving different markets. So, two-step represents an intermediary from the vendor to the user. So the users are categorized. One of the big categories is the MUSH market, the municipalities, universities, schools, and hospitals. So you have market professionals designed to take the vendors, be the intermediary for the products and solution to that MUSH market, and specialize in it and provide training, support, critical evaluations on their system, where they're at and where they're going to go. So the coaching, the mentoring, the partnerships that you create, because that's very challenging with all this IoT coming at us. And this was offset by, the fact that if you don't use full advantage of e-commerce at this point in time, the major players cannot meet their goals, cannot survive. We had the smaller vendors where the Ecobee, Prolon, they actually talked about, they want to go directly to the contractor and influence them and then come back and either credit the distributor or give the distributor a part to play, but they're not going to ask for permission to talk to those contractors. They're going to go one way or the other, like water. They will find, get their solutions before these contractors. And if we want to play in that round, or we want to be involved in that particular effort, then they welcome it. But if we don't, they're not going to make any excuses or justifications to say they're going to go around you anyhow. They're doing it. It's not a question of, it's not being negotiated. It's being done. So, and it was so, because we talked about the markets, we talked about basically the co-opetition model. Instead of fighting over the market that's already established, how do we develop a bigger market and get everybody a piece of that pie so that we have that natural settling? So if you're inclined to be, we have a good sales force and you're inclined, you're going to create your own exclusivity through your passion for the product. Gina Elliott from EasyIO made some really good points. The one was that they're not an HVAC controller or BAS controller, they're an IoT controller. And Lim was always famous for saying, basically some of the new products they have, they've taken the most formidable router and put I/O on it. Instead of taking an I/O module and then trying to make it, make the communications compatible and complicit, to the standards, they're taking a different route. So we saw this really just this ebb and flow of exchange that was very high level and very esoteric. This was the HVAC market,
Right. Well, so I heard something implicit in there that we're hearing more and more about, because you and I, if we call it, the Silicon Valley merger with HVAC, or whatever you want to call it, we've called it several different things. But it's interesting to me that now EasyIO is calling their solution an IoT solution. We've heard Brian Turner and Cadero and Control. We're hearing that more and more. And I think maybe one of the reasons we're hearing that, Kenny, is that at the building owner level and the architect level, they are thinking IoT versus controls now. IoT encompasses more than controls. Controls is a subset of IoT. So I think we're going to see more and more of that trend. I know that Honeywell is got some controllers that they're coming out with that are being marketed as IoT controllers. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. But it sounds like it was a great dialogue, and I think that I totally get that. Let's just take a step back and look at how it was. Okay, so how it was in the not too distant past for a distributor, and also for contractors too. For that thing was, you made a commitment to a vendor, and they gave you a piece of territory. That was your dirt. And your job was to develop that dirt, that territory, and bring the most sales to that territory as you could. And then what the vendor did in return for that was they protected you. In other words, you don't go selling in other people's territories. Well, that went out the door with the age of the internet. And, into the vendor's credits, a lot of them have tried to sort of police that. But just like you said earlier, that cat's out of the bottle. That's never going back in. But if you think about the intent of the vendor is to try to protect the distributors that are creating value for them. So I think, again, the way you attack that is the distributors that are doing the right things for you get a better, or more things for you, get more multiplier for more stuff. So if you're an online only distributor, but you want to put in a technical support department and you want to put outside salespeople out on the road to try to generate business wherever, I can't find fault with that, then you should be getting the same multiplier as somebody else who is. But if you're not, you cannot, and I'm going to repeat it again, you cannot jeopardize the people like us that have invested full tilt, full service distributors, and have got huge overheads compared to the online only, and are trying to create value for. So that's number one. Your multiplier is going to be based on the different functions that you're performing. And the other thing you have to take into effect, the idea of if you hit a certain number of years, certain growth, that your multiplier maybe gets better, you got to change that too, because guess what? Business is cyclical. It is absolutely cyclical. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. It's going to go up and it's going to go down. So when we're in a down cycle, I mean, for example, we've got certain customers that every other year buy a couple, almost $500,000 worth of stuff for us. It's just their cycle. So that means every in-between year, we're getting penalized because, we're not getting that order the next year. So we have to rethink that too. If you want to have sustainable success, you got to make sure that your partners, be it contractors, be it distributors, are not being, we can't be influenced.
Well, Eric, the conversation, you weren't at the meeting, but you're hitting exactly on the narrative of the meeting. First, they talked about the dirt, clearing the trees that paved the roads, So in other words, the investments that were made by the distributors. In other words, they literally financed the building automations trek into the markets. The branches, of course, did their work, and they hit but when the branches they were faltering in the early 90s, they came in with a two-step, just surged, and then also got smart. So we were putting in systems and buildings. So then one of the outcries was that, who cleared the trees and who paved the roads, and now who's driving on them. Yeah. So what's happening is we basically, the two-step distributor that had that and made we called it the 100K investment, because the general consensus was if you had somebody who was a systems integrator salesman that could actually do the multi-functions required to sell a typical BAS system, you're probably, not with expenses, you're probably paying right around, depending on the metropolitan areas, but about 100K.
Yeah, but that was 100K in 1985, 86. That was John Anderton. John Anderton from CD Jones did that matrix, and he came up with it. That's what it cost for one person back in 1985.
Right.
100K.
But that was still thing. So basically the eroding profits, the eroding margins was where, and then we got very particular. The commercial components, the bread and butter product lines, the old sensors, actuators, valves, whatever, and how many of the people that we provide, that we purchase our products from, also direct sell. And see, that's where the real unfair thing came in. That, in other words, if you're the one doing the farming all the work out and creating millions of dollars worth of market, through a group, and then you still have to compete against that same manufacturer, vendor that you're working with, who's going to advertising and selling directly on e-commerce from their website, from the vendor's website, then it really gets, it gets to be a bloody nose, because you don't know, the more you help somebody, the worse you're getting hurt in both ways, because you're dedicating your forces to a loyal vendor, and that loyal vendor cannot be loyal back. It's not reciprocated. And there were some really, high level things, because we always look in the macro version. We're always looking from our territory out to the world, where these people, the big manufacturers, are looking globally and they're looking macro. And we went from talking about the cyclical sales you mentioned to survival sales. In other words, not only is it cyclical as far as the economy, that is the ebb and flow and the pulse of economics going on, and when people feel confident, and when school districts get the funding, and when the university finally gets their funding together, they go and do it. Yeah, that doesn't happen every year. It's not year in, year out. It's every blue moon. And those blue moons become very competitive, because now that things are open, and it's more or less, it's a new game each round. It's a new outcome every time, based on the things that we all want. That's an open platform, because then we can all play, but that's a two-edged sword. So this is the dialogue that went on for 2.5 days.
No, it's great dialogue, and I want to acknowledge one vendor. They don't do everything perfect, but they do a lot really, really well. And this is a Belimo. And what Belimo does, and they don't do it with all their products, but they have a product called the Energy Valve, which has won numerous Control Trends awards. And what they do, and I think this, I bring this up because I think this is part of the solution set, because you have products that need to be sold, and you have products that need to be replaced, right? Replacement products, your costs for those kind of go down, but when you get something sold, there's a big cost involved, because like you said, you can go out, talk to the consulting engineer, get it specified, and then everybody and his brother, bids on it, and that online only guy gets, or girl gets the job, right? So all your work, so then now you're disincentivized to ever do that again. When the consulting engineer calls or the owner calls and you get burned once, next time it's, hey, do me a favor, just call me after they get the information, just let me bid it, and I'll bid it, because I'm not going to. But what Belimo did with the Energy Valve, which I thought was really, really brilliant, was if you get it specified or you influence it, and you have to document it, of course, then if you lose the job, somebody else comes in and lowballs it, you get a commission. So, and in many ways, I think it's a 10% commission, which is not bad. But again, if you think about, we are kind of banks. If you think what distributors really do for the vendors, is we offset a lot of their risk, right? My home, I have to go to the bank every year and re-sign a note that if we default on our loan, they can come take my house and everything in it, right? They can. And then I have to issue credit to, sizable jobs to move products. So that's a huge risk, but I'd almost rather take 10% and not have any risks. Let somebody else worry about whether they're going to get paid or not, and the money you have to borrow and the interest you have to pay on it. So I guess my point, Kenny, is there are solutions, but the solutions are not the way we've done it in the past. I think this is really great.
Absolutely. And I'm glad we're down ahead, Eric. It was like you're at the meeting, because these are exactly the conclusions. So some of the summaries, there was actually a request for after actions. Okay, so now that we've kind of tightened down the dialogue, we've elaborated on expectations and needs, and where new lines are being drawn, new relationships are being forged based on that more accurate information. And that's kind of a neat, when you're part of that, you can feel this network, and you can feel the surge of progress, and it wasn't defined well enough. So everybody was looking for this after action report, and I think they're going to be working on that, because, now that you've really truly magnified where progress can be made, and where you need to make a behavioral change and quit expecting something to result that's not going to happen. And
right.
The thing, you can't expect different results if you don't come up with a new solution. So these new solutions are being forged right now. It's an amazing,
exciting time, isn't it?
Well, it's a dangerous time, like you said too, because the finances. Imagine, like, you give away all your secrets, you put your secret sauce on the line, it all gets kind of rassled up and put into a nice big basket and gets carted away to another industry, gets carted away to another player, in the IoT world.
Well,
go ahead. we need to have a vested interest too, that our partners, these two-step distributors, keep two-stepping for as long as possible. And every year is a victory. Every year is a modification. Every year we're going down to a 1.5 step versus a full, because the term that I came away with, it was called disintermediation. And that is the natural, like an inclination to dissolve the intermediaries. So some of the big things that cause that is a do-yourself market of the incredible thermostats. Thermostats used to be, you talk about bread and butter. We used to sell thousands and thousands of thermostats every year. And just think about how that changed, and how now you've got, people that are so good at do-it-yourself market that it's almost audacious. Not only do they say we're going to sell direct, but we expect you to get with the program and help us sell direct, and then do the commissioning you talk about. Get in onto the almost like a manufacturer representative slice of business versus a two-step where you buy it and resell it. Now, if you influence the sale, they're going to eliminate the duplication in the channel. Yeah. So rather than ship it here and ship it here, there's a $12 UPS surcharge there or whatever, But if you help influence the sale and you ship it from here to here, just by cleaning up the channel and making it less friction. Remember we talked about friction?
Frictionless, yeah.
More voice operated. That was so those are kind of the after action things. I think these we were coming away with.
I think so. And for our Control Trends community that wasn't there, we'd love to get your ideas and comments if you want to be a guest on the show to talk about it. I think this is going to be necessary for the survival, not just of distributors, but systems integrators, contractors, and manufacturers. So, and my message to the distributors is, hey, we ain't Kansas anymore. I mean, if you think that just because it was this way and you deserve this because, you've done it this way, it's just not that way more. You're going to have to earn your money every day. I mean, for those of us who've been around for a long time, I mean, it's still a great industry, but it's a hell of a lot harder than it was before. And this is just the nature of it. So I think we're going to see this get reinvented. The channels get reinvented, and it's encouraging to me. On one hand, you and I have been sort of freaking out about this for a while just because we've seen it happening. And it's great that we're finally getting the dialogue, and people like Dan Preston from Johnson Controls and Gina Elliott from EasyIO are involved, because those are very, very, very smart people. But please reach out in comments if you have any thoughts about this. This is something Kenny and I will be tracking, and you should be too. And if you'd like to come on the show and be a guest with us, we'd love to have you on the show as well.
Kind of summarizes this whole thing, by all means. And we got a lot of promises. There was one good thing traveling. Control Trends was very well represented. I'd love hearing when somebody says they were on Control Trends and they heard this, and I'm thinking, who wrote that, Eric or me? But a new term that was being formed there that I think we were getting, it was getting closer and closer to being like actually described and captured. And again, it came out of the vendor systems committee exchange. And again, it was like it was a very interesting panel format. So there was no 100% limit what you could say, what you couldn't say, or these were the topics. So it was kind of very listed. But the term exclusivity became a connotative understanding. So everybody's putting in. So I was coming away with like you create your own exclusivity formally by having a written contract with territories and commitments, investment, growths. I mean, you literally went through, sections A, 2 or 1, 2, 3, whatever. And this is what your commitments were. This was your minute inventory level, whatever. Now we're seeing that was more of a passive. That was an agreement. I'm seeing now exclusivity now is driven by action. It's a very active. You do it by being creative, initiative, by doing actions and innovation. You don't nobody needs to take a piece of paper and give you exclusivity. You generate your own exclusivity by your own passion for excellence, or your own passion to take whatever there is and get out in front of everybody, go from 0 to 1.
Right. And I would sum it up with whoever creates the most value creates the most exclusivity.
There you go.
It's not based on territory anymore.
Yeah, we're going to keep working on that term, but I like that one too. Yeah, value. Whoever creates more value creates greater exclusivity.
Hey, speaking of value, Kenny, I'll let you make your point. I'm sorry, you were about to say.
That was it. That was kind of the capture. Because I mean, again, we'll go on a diatribe here, and just digress. But we have a couple of posts to get to. But
right.
I just thought it was kind of a refreshing point in our industry. It's kind of like not a pivot point, or
the 800. We're now talking about the $800 300-pound gorilla or the elephant in the room. We're talking about the elephant in the room instead of pretending like it doesn't exist or dancing around it. I think that is very, very healthy.
And the solutions that I got to see, one more thing I'd say is that I saw fabulous product innovation and introduction from Johnson Controls. They're coming back out with Verisys. It's going to be much more this iteration. They've got a national initiative. They're going to go out and train, and they're really going to go after the contractor. The end result here, the default takeaway is that if you want to increase market now, you've got to do all the things you just talked about: value, innovation, take the new technology, apply it. But you need new partners, more partners. We can't go to the same guy you've been working with for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years and ask him to take on a new line and more investments. When he too is going through his disruption, he's going through his, you need to get more channel partners. You need to get more customer sets involving different players that weren't necessarily HVAC. So this whole concept of getting onto the IoT elevator and working with somebody in IT that now he needs IO on a network. He doesn't need an HVAC controller. He doesn't need he doesn't know what he needs, but if you show him the ability to bring a web-enabled controller online through a router and bring up control over a couple points and data log stuff and get emergency notifications from his own particular desires for temperatures and pressure levels or whatever, it's a whole new ballgame. So we need so JCI said they're going to go out. They're going to go after the guys that are doing glass thermostats, and they're going to have a commercial version, but they're also going to have the residential version because that's going to link them into more business into the zoning world. We saw Schneider Electric has a new controller coming out. It's a DDC controller, so that little tiny thermostat looking thing that was a zone controller with its real cute, very attractive display panel, touchpad, is going to be able to do 9 inputs and 7 outputs. Wow. and fully networkable, backnet, wireless, out of the box. It's just so while we're complaining and while we're making distress calls, from the way the cheese was over here and now it's over here, and this is the margin, or this is the difference at minus the 2, this is the growth you got to go through, the lateral growth. There are some great opportunities. EPIO, we got to see Lim was there, and the technology that they laid on the table, literally on the table, it's laying there on the table. You got an FS32 field server class controller, quad core processor. It looks like a looks like a Maserati, just looking at it, and then what they're doing with it, and it's fully, the security measures and everything you got to do to keep up with everything. It's automatically, they're going after it 100%, and then they're laying down the FW series, which is the most amazing products for the cost, the bang for the buck, the formidability of the product, the ability to take it standalone all the way up to net growth, and live programming. And then they've got the little FT04, which basically is a 2-in-2-out controller, web-based, web-enabled controller that can get on your network, take advantage of global information and apply it locally or vice versa. So you need the data monitor temperatures or control something based on if it gets too high, too low, whatever. I mean, you want to control the blinds based on the input from the web for the sun tracking, and it moves your blinds up and down. You can do it now with this little tiny thing.
It's amazing.
And so so that's why too. On one hand, you got some scary things looking at you. You're thinking to yourself, things aren't as good as they were, or whatever, or my sweet spot's moving, and I don't know which way to go after it. At the same time,
control trends, we'll tell you exactly where you need to go. And,
so there's for everything that's going away, there's new opportunities. Right. That was basically the health of it.
Right. No, I think you're right. And I think what we do at Control Trends is we endeavor to make sure that you're well informed. As my teacher Marshall Thurber once said, nothing's obviously the uninformed. And if you're an integrator, if you're a distributor, if you're a manufacturer, I mean, we're asking the questions and we're reporting back what we're seeing because we don't have the answers. But I tell you what, we got a pretty good picture of what's going on. And, I think what we're both coming away with today after hearing what Kenny said about the CGNA meeting is, okay, there's solutions here, and it's going to be different, and it's probably going to be better, but it's definitely going to be different. And you better get ready for different. And, this is the guy who's been married 4 times. You better get ready for different, right?
Hey, well, I'll give you credit, man. You just got back from Italy. You got one piece. You got great
I'm still married, dude.
And you look at that, protect home base and make it stronger.
But kind of to wrap up to our vendors out there, because the vendors are struggling with how to it's got to get sold. How do you get the messaging out there? And you can send your sales force out there too. Sales forces are expensive, and you should, but also part of what Control Trends, our charter is if you're in this business, if you're in this industry, and you got something to say, come on our show. It is open to everybody. I mean, anybody in the industry that wants to come and talk about their product, if you're contributing something contributes to the community, you are welcome, whether you're an integrator, whether you're a distributor, whether you're a manufacturer.
Well, Eric, we got some big responses on it. Last time you did that, you rallied up the force. So we have to get that calendar online and let people schedule themselves and kind of do it. Right. And to the point, we had some amazing things. These guys weren't necessarily affiliated or associated with the last week's events, but we've got Building IoT, Controlco, Condaro, OTI. What they're doing. We always talked about Brian Turner and Scott Cochran being a little bit. Now they're a lot of it ahead of the curve. They saw this, this change and this disruption coming probably earlier than anybody else, and made steps to get around the pain part of it. Start something, get it more IT savvy. Once you can do that, then you can control more of the outcomes. Get into a master systems integrator level where you're not letting the mistakes that have really, basically wounded our industry, wounded the perfect building, wounded the smart, connected, intelligent building because of the momentum of the siloed approach to business. Everybody had a business to protect, and regardless of if, it was a better idea to have it integrated, fully integration, seamless integration, very, very friendly networking. They maintain a siloed approach because they had to protect their industry. They had to protect their paycheck. And it's justifiable.
The most brilliant thing that both Brian Turner and Scott Cochran have done in the last week, absolutely the most brilliant thing. And these guys are leaders, and I encourage you to follow them. Do you know the answer to that, Kenny?
I do. They became sponsors of
the Control Trends Awards. There you go. Guys, that's self-serving. So thank you, Scott. Thank you, Brian. And we also had another company, Loytech, came on. Right. And we handle Loytech, Kenny. You talked about just one of the best kept secrets. So we've got videos on Control Trends where you can see their product line, but they're kind of quiet under the radar. But if you're doing anything with lawn, these guys are your ticket.
They have one of the slickest user interfaces ever made available to our industry, and it's almost like esoteric. In other words, to me, that word esoteric means that only the people really heavily involved in the industry know about it and hear about it. And what they're going to do is they're going to enable the market by getting involved, and so the people coming on the show and get them that point. We had some really interesting things, the bread and butter stuff, like networking people, like control. We're going to have contemporary controls on here shortly, but you got functional devices making these incredible accessory devices that are just one of the most reliable. They're like staples. They're like Scott towels. They're like Crest toothpaste. I mean, you just take it for granted. You buy 50 of them, 100. The current transducers and the relays that they work with current. I mean, we just take it so for granted, but they're really innovating. We had a post that we'll come to. I'm trying to transition because even the most taken for granted things like wire, like Connect Air, they came out with a whole accessory line. They teamed up with people in the industry to make these incredible innovative carts. Like a lot of people have them, but a lot of people don't. In other words, they save hours of time because you load these carts up with your wire, your 18.2, your 18.3, whatever, and you need the pulls. This thing is like a mobile, wire center, for for the pulling of wire. Clever as could be. I mean, the magnetic things that they have that they put on any metal that can hold, 25 pounds of weight. I mean, you put this thing on something, you got to get it off a certain way. You have to, ease it off and then pull hard because this magnetic strength is. So I saw this incredible technology, even as well as Crown Engineering, those old guys that they had the best year last year because now we're bringing more back industry. There's more industry, there's more flame safeguard, there's more reasons for their ignition, their igniters and their high voltage cable, and then just went around the world. The gentleman, he's a consummate gentleman. He's quiet and he just carries a little stick. Mayline, M.A. Line. I can't think of his name, but I got his card here somewhere. But what incredible products. I mean, one of the first things I saw that they did was that thing, the light on the hat, like the coal miner's hat, and how practical that was and how cheap it was. But he has things that make contractors' lives, the brittle weather they go through, the tents, you can put on top of, the roof now to protect you while you're working on a rooftop unit. I mean, it's just, it's like, it's just an inspiring environment where you see all the incredible thoughts and innovations going on. So again, it was a very, very complete meeting, and we got some great vendors that are out there day in, day out. And Supco was another one. I had forgotten how ingenious some of the things they have for surge protection and for just making installation of work easier.
Well, and cyber power, Dan Nyowitz, man, the stuff he's got for the panels with that too.
Right.
So,
and they were down there. They were so busy because as this hurricane was approaching, guess who becomes your best friend as you're getting ready for one of these national disasters or these hurricanes? The people that can keep your system running despite the fact you lost there's over 1 million people without electricity in North Carolina and South Carolina. I bet you a lot of them wish they had an up system right now.
No,
The UPS system, and I bet you that the cyber power, we had a really nice conversation too. They're doing great, but they're another fan of Control Trends. But they introduce things and they share, so they make everybody educated. So they give a little, get some. It's what do you call it? That old days. I don't want to say.
No. I think with your strategy, you can't hide information anymore. So you might as well get it out there, and you might as well become the funnel. So, Kenny, listen, dude, this is great. We have unlimited bandwidth, and so we've been talking now for almost an hour already. And I've enjoyed the conversation, but I want to just transition a little bit because I posted an interview with Elon Musk and Joe Rogan. It's on the Control Trend site. And Joe Rogan is one of my favorite guys. He is just does great podcasts. Forewarn you right now, he uses terrible, terrible language. If that kind of stuff bothers you, then you're not going to want to listen to him. He uses more dirty words than a sailor. But Elon Musk was on there, and this was the interview. If you follow the news, Elon Musk supposedly, allegedly smoked pot online, made a couple of statements, and his stock tanked over 150 points after that. But I got to tell you, it is one of the most intriguing interviews I've seen talking about the future. And Elon Musk is by far and away, well, I'll put it to you this way. So Joe Rogan keeps asking him because he's got all these different companies, all these different things. For those of you who don't know, he's the one who founded Tesla. He founded SpaceX. He's digging tunnels underneath Los Angeles. He's redoing their subway system. He developed a flamethrower company. He's just one thing after another, this guy gets into it. And just to listen to him talk and his thought process is just amazing. But Joe Rogan kept asking him, he kept going, how do you do all this? What's your time management strategy? How do you find time to do all this stuff? And he kept sort of avoiding the question. And my wife is watching with me about this time. And at one point in time, Rogan asked it again. He goes, well, you must know I'm an alien. And we looked at each other and went, he is He is definitely an alien. There's no ifs, ands, buts about the fact. This guy, he is from another planet. And I think it's a good thing. It's an absolutely good thing. But the gist of it, he was talking a lot about AI and the effect that that's going to have on all of us. And for those of you who don't read the news much, he has really pushed back from everybody from Obama to everybody saying, we cannot let this genie out of the bottle. And the interview, he'll give you reasons why. And but it's fascinating. But he's talking about and one of the things, and this gets back, this is Ken Sinclairish type stuff, where Ken's talking about the building and the humans becoming one. One of the things he's talking about is he says technology. We already are kind of cyborgs. I mean, if you've got a smartphone, that's an extension of artificial intelligence that you're using. But he's really talking about the fact that we're going to have to evolve with this technology. And Rogan looks over and goes, so you're saying that basically these things are self-learning, they're adaptive learning, they're emotional learning. At some point in time, they could just look at us and go, we don't need these people around anymore. In other words, they're going to know when they're threatened. It's fascinating. I'm not doing it justice, but
no, but I can give you some stable data, as you always say. Just again, for everybody I believe knows who Elon Musk is, but he's taken the upper echelon of technology by storm. He was a child prodigy. He was from Transvaal, South Africa. But in his education, he kind of he went to PhD in energy physics. But I mean, here's his career. Just see if any of these names ring a bell. Zip2, XCOM, PayPal, SpaceX, Tesla, and now we're getting into the new age stuff. You're talking Solar City. So this is co-founded in 2006. You got to read it to believe. Take the hot link on the site. Hyperloop, OpenAI, Neuralink, The Boring Company. The Boring Company. When I first listened to that, I thought to myself, because he said he's building tunnels under LA. They've actually got this thing now. If you go on the website and see it, they say that Elon Musk and The Boring Company want to tunnel into your garage. Basically, it's an elevator from various points in the city or perhaps in the residence where you get in. They use very similar approaches to the subway style tunnels where these vehicles can go up to 150 miles an hour. So they show trucks, they show cars. They've submitted the blueprints and they've already been approved. So they're actually going through the case study. So they're building a loop where 2 high-speed sleds will be traveling up to 150 miles an hour on a 2-mile-long test. But imagine if you took the advantage of some of the subways or even the railroad lines. Our railroads, unfortunately, as the more we use them, the worse they seem to perform. Whether it's Amtrak but we just had a major derailment in Pittsburgh. And you just wonder how in the hell could a train derail in this day and age? And it shut down the city for 2 solid days. That side of the city couldn't go on either bridge. But now they're solved. So the concept of us going to the space age thing, and it's not even, it's not a wish anymore. It's not a dream. It's a tangible thing being tested. But by far and away, the things that Elon Musk did that in the recent history was your Tesla car. Every time I get into it, I get a kick out of it. Yeah. You don't even use half of the features in it. You finally start autonomous driving in it.
Well, and that was one of the things he talked about. And this is a really good piece for manufacturers and all, because, when he talks about the Tesla, he goes, people are missing the point. I built the car to be entertaining. He's got all these features, kind of like going to In-N-Out Burger where they got the secret menu. There's apparently all these secret things. Like the car will dance, apparently. It's one of these secret features. But he says, I want the car to be fun. It's about the experience. It's about it being fun. And so, you get back, this guy is not just thinking about saving energy, he's thinking about the experience. Does that resonate with the $300 concept we talk about all the time where, people are wanting the experience? Ken Sinclair, you can say thank you to Elon Musk. You and him are on the same page. It's about creating an experience. And it is a must listen to. It really is.
But also, and I agree with you, and I love the fact that even when you're traveling in Italy, you can make a reference back to the 300 principle and intelligent buildings. So I mean, and it's not even a stretch. It is true. It's an attitude. It's a new way of orientation. When I saw those 2 spaceships land, the jettison, first stages of the rockets come down and land as twins. Yeah. And the flames went out and they were perfectly intact and reusable. That was the first time in my life where I realized that space travel was possible, because that was the big issue. Yeah. I mean, you can't build a rocket for a one-way trip. You have a bunch of one-way rockets. You have a junkyard for rockets. But I tell you what, carrier, and then if you go into it, you'll become a fan of it. I mean, if you taste that, you'll wonder why we don't have this kind of leadership advanced to the forefront of our governing principles. And maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know.
That's a great point. But Elon Musk doesn't abide by anybody's governing principles. He doesn't. And if you listen to this interview, you'll get a flavor for it. So. When we talk about Silicon Valley coming to our industry, man, I just wish Tesla would get involved in it, Elon Musk. If you want to come on our show and if you want to create a product line, we'll sign up to represent you right away. No, this guy, he's like Richard Branson from Virgin Airlines. He's another guy. There are people out there, they think entirely different. And Bebos is one from Amazon. I don't like him as much because he hurts us. But if you look at the people that are setting it on fire right now, they don't think, they're not playing defense. They're playing offense,
I mean, just the hurricane that's going on and seizing North Carolina, South Carolina, all our friends and partners out there. Yeah. Our thoughts, wishes, and prayers are with you. And because it's awful. I was watching my daughter's down there at a wedding, and it's extraordinary. It's not the high winds. I mean, there are high winds, and they did do a lot of destruction with the winds, but it wasn't the devastating hurricane. It's the water, it's the rain, it's flooding. It's just life is just miserable for so many people, and so the thing I was trying to kind of get into was that when we don't have control of our circumstances, and we rely on technologies and the people that are advancing it, like Elon Musk and Richard Brannigan. I was down at a hurricane place in Cabo, Mexico, and after the hurricane, I had never seen anything like the entire beach from against the wall to the water was covered with plastic, whether it was combs, windshield wipers, ice scrapers, empty bottles of shampoo. I took pictures. So he's got this initiative. Brannigan does
Branson to clean the ocean.
Branson, I'm sorry. Yeah. Brannigan's a poet that I used to read. That's why I always mix those two up. But anyhow, Branson they're going through just collecting. I mean, what's going on? Where's all this garbage coming from? Who's being allowed to dump garbage at that magnitude in the oceans? Because now it's not going to go away and it doesn't dissolve. It comes back and it haunts the creatures that created it. So what are we doing here?
Maybe that's why Elon Musk bought the flamethrower company. Maybe he's just going to incinerate all that stuff.
That's a good idea. You kill all the fish, though.
Dude, we got to cycle to these couple posts we got.
Well, there's only 3 of them, so let's just we'll roll right through it. We got Contemporary Controls, September Control Network newsletter, the latest innovations, technical tips, and product updates. George Thomas and the crew there. Again, they're really and truly getting involved, and this is a 2-post in one. So I assume it's 3 posts. It's actually 2 because the first post in the Contemporary Controls September Control Network newsletter is their attendance at the Honeywell Momentum. And we need to give Honeywell some attention there. The Honeywell Momentum 2018 is in Orlando, the 21st to the 22nd. So they're going to have it down there in Orlando, one of the resort areas. It's the last week to sign up. So anybody that's out there in the Honeywell distribution or contractor network, if you haven't made your reservations, you've got till the end of this week to do it. But hats off to Contemporary Controls, because they also recognize this Industrial Ethernet University selling its 15th year anniversary. So for the past 15 years, the Industrial Ethernet University has been teaching proper protocols and applications through self-guided lessons. And that's one of the big things we love about Contemporary Controls. You talk about being generous and giving to the industry. Yeah. These guys give away one of the best textbooks you can download. It's 125 pages, I believe, and it's all about how to make your network, what the issues are, what BACnet is. It's a BACnet. They have a video series 1 through 8 that if you go to it, it will give you the same level of understanding and training that you would at one of the BACnet training schools, and they give it away. So hats off to George. And then finally, there was one more. They were talking about I was talking about Cleveland, how the mayor came and spoke at one of the major things there, and I think that's really good when you put that in there, where people are excited about where they live. They welcome industry. They welcome people. You have people like Chattanooga, Tennessee, given, people that write engineering software, computer savvy people, they get a bonus for moving to their city. They get some kind of a generous bonus to move. So they're attracting talent and whatever. And I know Atlanta's on beating the drums, but it's kind of cool that the Senator John Curran came out for a meeting with the engineers and a tour of Contemporary Controls, and basically recognized what these champions, these quiet guys do a great deal. They represent a very significant economic cornerstone of their community. And they were appreciated. So it was good to see that happen.
Well, we love George Thomas, and George and Contemporary Controls have been sponsors and supporters of the Control Trends and the Control Trends Awards. So he'll be one of the superstars you can see at the 2018 Control Trends Awards in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Fox Theater with have your mint julep and look around and practice saying, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." Reference from Gone with the Wind. Scarlett O'Hara says to Rhett Butler says to Scarlett O'Hara, that little Southern vixen, she's been twirling him around her finger the whole movie, and at some point in time he wises up, he looks at her and goes, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn."
You could have done that on the real stage, Eric. I'll tell you, we're going to work on that.
We're going to work.
Your delivery was almost right there, but you're building. Last post, RIB, Functional Devices, introducing our brand new logo. So that was another person we got to meet, Angie Jarvis and her team.
Oh, yeah.
Got the CJA meeting, and always gregarious, always just fun, but really top of the game. She's technically savvy. Functional Devices has some stuff that they really want to catch up, make sure everybody's aware that they've got solutions that are very, very simple, cost-effective, and necessary, especially when you have all these power outages, these challenges to smooth operation. So UPS, power supplies, they've got some incredible, I call them rescue clubs, because in golf, Tiger Woods and some of these guys would hit a lousy shot off the tee, but then they would grab some club out of the bag and make this incredible second or third shot, be on putt for par, and just marvel the crowds. Well, in the network business, when you're figuring out your IO points, I could tell you several times we missed a couple things, and now it would be extraordinarily expensive to go back and put another control in there or whatever.
Right.
You get a non-network or back network. Functional Devices gives you a rescue club. They'll give you the ability to control a point remotely just by buying what you need and put on your network and solve.
And so Functional Devices, I believe, is a sponsor too. They typically sponsor the Control.
They absolutely are.
They
are. And what was really important about this is if you go into Control Trends and you look at the main they're on the featured site right now, as they changed their logo. They went from the rib relay box to like the functional devices changed their logo, and it's kind of cool. And then what we did there too is we featured the marketing guy, the guy that did the work and came up with it, so that now it looks more like a circuit and ribs in the middle. So yeah.
Let me tell you something, man. He must be Italian because it's got that Italian design, man. Because I'll tell you, the Italians, they know how to design stuff, man. The sound of the cars, Alfa Romeos, the clothes, the way the women dress, the way they dress, Bugatti, all that stuff is great. And so I tell you, dude, I got to tell you one story. I used to have an Alfa Romeo, man. I had one of those little 2-seater Spider things, the convertibles. Dude, just the sound of the engine, man, was unbelievable. So, and I think Elon Musk, some states require you to have a sound now. I think you can get like a Maserati sound or a Alfa Romeo sound if you want to.
Really?
So yeah. Some states say like you can't get, so you can hear them coming. So I might get an Alfa Romeo or Maserati sound from
augmented sound features, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
They should make it a merry-go-round. So it's to sound like a
Yeah, and Angie Jarvis, if you see her, Sarah Motley, give them a big hug. Those are two of the coolest women in the industry, and that will be one of the categories this year, the Woman of the Year again. So we'll look forward to that. And Amy Dorn, wherever you are, we miss you. I hear she moved on from Allerton. And Lindsay Baker, Kenny misses you. So come on back. We want to talk to you. All right, buddy. I'll tell you what, Kenny, with that, we're going to wrap it up because I'm jet lagged. I got a cup of coffee and a bed waiting for me, and my wife is taking the kids out of the house, so I'll catch up on a little shut-eye. But we appreciate our Control Trends community. We'll get back to the long format. We'll have guests coming back on. And thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Eric Stromquist, and he is the man, the myth, the legend. So remember, be bold. What do we say? Oh, be bold, be relevant, stay in control. You got to go Indeedo.
Indeedo, Eric.
Indeedo, Kenny Smyers.
They don't say Indeedo, do they? It's probably different.
They were glad to see us leave, though, brother. I tell you.
So he helped maintain that fabulous American image abroad, right?
Well, I think I'm going to post a picture of my child. Actually, spaghetti.
I told him about that story.
Yeah, we're trying to get married. Definitely.